On Wednesday, we gathered as a family of faith to mark ourselves with a sign of faith. Ashes were placed on our foreheads to remind us to turn away from sin and be faithful to the gospel. So why would someone, especially Christ, go into the desert knowing he was going to be tempted? Jesus knew that he would be isolated, alone, and vulnerable as he journeyed into the desert for 40 days. He also knew that God, the angels, and the saints would be there to keep him safe as the devil tried everything he could do to make Jesus fall. Jesus persevered, and the devil departed him for a time. So what can we learn this first Sunday of Lent? Well, we are not alone. Sometimes it may feel like we're alone, wandering aimlessly in the desert, searching for meaning, for answers, for refreshment. Brothers and sisters, we are never alone. Even in our darkest hours, God, the angels, and the saints, they are with us too. The problem occurs when we lose faith, when we lose hope, and when we let the devil win. My dear friends, this Lent, the devil cannot win. As we find ways to pray and fast and give alms, let us remember that the closer we get to Christ, the more we are fulfilled in the joys of the gospel, the devil will depart for a time, but he will come back stronger than ever because he wants us to go back to our old ways. Brothers and sisters, we have marked ourselves with the sign of Christ. We are a family, a community of faith. So let's hear from one of our parishioners on how this gospel relates to them.
Hello, I'm Bridget Malewitz. I'm a wife, a mother, a nurse, and a St. Raphael parishioner. I'm excited and nervous to share my thoughts with you on the gospel reading for the first Sunday in Lent. In this reading, Jesus was led by the Spirit to venture out for 40 days into the desert, alone, with no food. He didn't eat for the entire 40 days. Also, I imagine that he slept on the ground with little for comfort or protection. And it wasn't even a peaceful experience. He was repeatedly tempted by Satan. Surely it was a miserable time. I think it's meaningful that this gospel falls just before Jesus was about to begin his public ministry. He was preparing to fulfill his purpose on earth, to teach, to heal, to minister, to institute the Eucharist, to suffer, and to die. He was preparing for something enormous, and so, led by the Spirit, he retreated to fast, pray, and to sacrifice, really to spend time in discomfort. But Jesus' time in the desert, it had a purpose. I think we all have desert experiences. We all have times that are just difficult and seem senseless, times that we don't like and that we really want out of. I've noticed in my life that the times that are very uncomfortable end up being the times that I learn and grow the most. My biggest desert experience was the sickness and death of my first husband. He was diagnosed with cancer a few years after we were married and was sick for 4 years, with multiple surgeries, rounds of chemo and radiation, and many hospital stays. That time in my life was extremely difficult, to stand by and watch him suffer and in so much pain, and also to watch my children lose their father. They were so young that they would really miss out on even knowing him. While I'll be the first to admit that I didn't handle any of it perfectly, I can look back on that time in my life and I can realize that that's when I became much of who I am today. I struggled with my faith a lot during that time, but I also learned to rely on God. And I know that my faith was made much stronger because of that. It was also because of this experience that I found my calling to be a nurse. And I think that I can relate to my patients because of my past. And while I still don't understand God's purpose completely, I have faith that one day I will see the whole picture. No one likes to be uncomfortable. In fact, we try to avoid it as much as possible. But I think it's important to acknowledge that our discomforts and our sacrifices have meaning and they have purpose. They're all part of God's bigger plan. During this Lenten season, I want to focus on the fact that all my sacrifices and discomforts, whether intentional or not, can be part of a bigger plan. God can take those discomforts and use them to shape me into a better version of myself. Of course, I continue to struggle, a lot actually, but hopefully I'll continue to grow. I want to challenge each of you to not only look for opportunities to make sacrifices during Lent, but also to look differently upon the sacrifices that you already make. How are your sufferings and inconveniences opportunities to grow closer to God? Will we allow God to take us out of our comfort zones and to prepare us for greatness?